on a new level. You know I'm on a new level. Pull up in foreigns, you know that I'm scoring.
Welcome back to Kings at the Table podcast, where if you're a king, you belong at the table. Woo! Well, week one is in the books.
We back. Week one is done.
Back.
Let's go.
How you feeling? How was your off season, Juan? How did it go for you?
It was a little bit of a roller coaster. We had a couple good months, with acquisitions coming to the Steelers and shit. But other than that, everything went pretty good. How about your off season?
It was all right. It was chill. I mean, as far as the Broncos not really making too much moves, that part kind of sucked. But overall, just me hanging out, getting stuff done, trying to get a new little studio going. And
as you can see, it looks very, very nice, folks.
It's a little different. I think I like it.
It's a nice change.
A little change, huh?
There you go.
One thing that didn't change was this Sunday night game. I'm going to get straight into that Sunday night game.
That was a game.
And it was the Lions versus the Rams. Rematch from the division round?
Yeah.
Or first round, I think it was.
It was the first round.
But it lived up to its hype.
Absolutely, it did.
And Juan, the Lions ended up winning. They pretty much dominated at the end. What were your thoughts overall, just as far as how they show they're not a fluke?
What up, Detroit? They still in it. They continue to be that same team with that same mentality that, we're going to dominate the way we play, and we're going to have you guys play catch up with us. And that's pretty much what they show. They wanted to establish that run game, and that run game was kind of iffy in the beginning, but towards the end, like you mentioned, you couldn't stop that run. The defense from the Rams, it's like they got worn out completely going into that overtime drive.
And it's not to take away from what the Rams did, because they did put up a fight.
They did.
And especially how Puka went down, and that's a tough loss.
That's a big loss.
Kind of got to cover, because we get that Cooper's back, Cooper Kupp actually, and looking like the old Kupp. But you can't forget about Puka and how much he brought to the team. If they could have had both guys for these next 5-week span, now he's out for 4 weeks. That's a tough loss.
It is, and that's going to change drastically the offensive mindset for Sean McVay and that offense going into the next couple weeks until you can get a healthy Puka back, because like you said, Cooper was doing his thing. We were talking about it. We were talking while the game was on. I was like, dude, Cooper is doing it right now.
He's looking like when he won MVP. He could have won MVP.
Exactly, yes. Like the way he played, absolutely, he was great. And just imagine if you had the other side help, it would have changed the dynamic of that game for sure.
Definitely. Well, let's give some credit to the Lions, though. They did get that, defending their home field and all. This puts them already back to the same kind of seeding and contending team as they were last year right away.
I believe so, yeah. You could definitely see that they're still that force, whether, the losing of some players and adding of some players, but you could just see that team has still got that whole field chemistry to them.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's definitely like really good to see, especially kind of be like, okay, was this that fluke situation, or is this team now and ready? And they're displaying that right now.
For sure. Let's go into another team real quick. It's the Buccaneers versus the Commanders. The Bucs ended up winning 37-20. Baker Mayfield put up 4 touchdowns.
What up, Baker? What did we say last year? He might have found his home, and he showed out for sure this weekend against the Commanders. But I mean, again, the Commanders are still that team that they don't have an identity, new coach, new systems, new rookie quarterback. They got a lot of what ifs right now, and so Baker, I think Tampa Bay just fully took advantage of that, and they dominated the way they did.
I would say, though, give some credit to the rookie. I know they lost and all, but just the way he looked poised. I get that he was running a lot. He had 88 rushing yards, which is huge because that's up there with Lamar status, you would say, right?
Absolutely.
And, again, your first game on the road as a rookie, that can't be easy. They didn't get blown out. Hats off to the rookie.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, it's a team with no identity yet. We don't know what they're going to really bring to the table, and they lost a lot of key pieces last year, especially with that defense. So it's going to kind of be like full rebuild, but I mean, at least they have some starting points already with the rookie quarterback who, again, he kept his composure, which was good to see.
Definitely. Real quick, just before we go to the next game, Baker Mayfield and the Browns, that situation. You let him walk, he finds a new home. I think the Browns were to wish they didn't trade.
Now,
Mayfield?
absolutely. I mean, we're gonna really get into that discussion here in a little bit.
Well, let's get into it.
Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Let's go to this next game, and then we'll get into that.
Okay, for sure.
The Cleveland Browns against the Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
This is where we're going to get a little more into detail because not just the Watson situation, but we got Dak signing his deal to stay for 4 years.
That was hell of a shocker, dude.
And
When that ticker came in, it's like, wait, what? When did this all happen? And it took me completely by surprise. I didn't expect him to get paid like that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole deal?
I mean, as far as him getting the deal done, I've seen it coming. Being the highest paid player in the NFL, that whole title, I don't fall for it because it's always going to be a new top player. So, like, let's say in 2 years, Dak is going to be like the fucking 15th highest paid player, and then he'll fall into where he belongs. You see, so I don't really fall for that top highest paid, but the thing that did catch me off guard was how it was 2 hours before the game.
Absolutely. So, like, that guy walked in with the paycheck.
And I know I called you and we talked about it, and we were saying how a little conspiracy because the Cowboys were looking into Sanders,
Yep.
possibly drafting him. That's why they didn't get the deal done, from what I'm hearing. And all of a sudden, Sanders has a horrible game against Nebraska, doesn't do anything, and now 2 hours before the game, they signed Dak Prescott.
I mean, from what, like, how we were talking about it seems like Dallas had their eyes set on something, probably with Sanders, which, I mean, it's a hit or miss right now. I mean, he had a really great season last year. This year, I mean, he's starting off rough. It's a whole different team.
I'm a fan.
I mean, it's hard to not be a fan, but it's kind of like easy not to be a fan.
Correct. If he didn't
So-
have the last name, it's easy
And I
to
think
not.
that's what it is, and that's what's selling the tickets right now. So I think that's what brings his value that much higher, and like where you want to like really pay attention to this guy, and it comes with it. You know what I mean? Like again, it's your dad. You know, you got your dad who's like an NFL icon. We could pretty much basically. So. I mean, it's always like, oh, what's his son going to do? What's his son going to do? I mean, it kind of changes a little bit in perspective when you're like, can he really ball? Can he play? You know, there's a lot of people who've had kids come into the league and they don't even come close to their dad or whatnot. So, I mean, it's a really high standard. You're going to get what you get regardless of the situation. So, like, right now with Sanders, it's kind of hard. Like, I haven't bought into the system, but I'm a fan. Like how
for
you
sure.
said.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So, like-
let's just get back onto the football, the NFL.
Yeah.
But I'm right with you with all that. That was good takes. The Cowboys, though, they dominated the Browns, and some people were saying it was going to be a good game based on the Browns' defense. But Deshaun Watson hasn't came back since he got traded. He's still he's not there. And it's kind of crazy to think that because we keep hoping for the potential of the Texans, Deshaun Watson, but he has yet, I'm talking about, not even one spark of Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans has shown up. And it's like, all you need is one little spark to get that shit going.
Yeah.
And the Cleveland Browns were contending for the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, last year. And it's just crazy how, like you said, he has never came back. He's got hella off-field stuff. I think that's part of the reason. But, I mean, it almost seems like football is not his priority. Because, I mean, personally, like when, you know, we spoke about it, he couldn't even help the offensive line, his own offensive lineman up. You've seen that. I'm pretty sure you've seen the clip.
Oh, the clip, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean...
What
if it's
happened?
happening-
What happened with the clip though? Let
so
the audience know.
He was trying to help his lineman up off the ground, and the lineman basically was like, "Get the fuck out of here! I don't need your help." And he got up himself.
You're talking live TV.
Yeah, and clear as day for anybody to see. So for the fact that you see something like that going on when your offensive lineman and your quarterback should be like fucking best friends over anybody else on that team, for him not to have the respect of his own lineman, that speaks volumes.
Poof.
So I mean, can you give us your input on what you think that locker room situation is going like right now? How do you feel in your opinion on that?
To how the locker room is right now.
Yeah, like-
I'm gonna go more into like, let me put my Browns jersey on. I just lost to the Cowboys. I got my helmet in my hand. I'm walking in and I'm throwing that helmet on the ground. And they're gonna say, "What's wrong with this guy?" I'm gonna say, "I'm tired of losing." And they're gonna say, "Why are you tired of losing? Well, you acting like you're not part of the team." I am part of the team, but not everybody's acting like this is their team.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I'll be pissed, bro. And I'll go straight up to Deshaun. I'll smack him right on his chest. "Hey, bro, are you good? Straight, are you good? Because if you ain't good, man, we gonna need another quarterback.
Bring back Flacco at this point.
Straight up.
Well, I mean, it's again, it's overreactions, but I mean, there's a lot of things that happen.
Is it really overreaction?
No, not necessarily, because
Okay.
we've seen what happened.
Last year.
Yeah, we already seen how that whole little spiral went, and obviously somebody else was the better choice for that team. And look what it did. I mean, unfortunately, it was an ass whooping in the playoffs with the Texans, but you at least seen an offense that was moving and a defense that was dominating.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not getting you haven't even felt that yet with Deshaun. So when would you call it like that's it? You're done.
It's gonna be soon. If he doesn't turn it up, he got maybe 2 more weeks.
I could see that.
They
yeah.
can't go down 0-3.
No, especially in the division that they're in. So I mean,
He already got his guaranteed money.
yeah.
So it's not like, you just got to move on at that point.
Which isn't a bad idea, because at this point you're not winning games, and that's what's the name of the game, to win games.
Definitely.
And they're obviously not doing that in the locker room. I believe is just done with him.
Well, another locker room that was done with their quarterback was the Chicago Bears. They moved on from Justin Fields, drafted Caleb Williams, the number 1 pick, and it looks like they're trending the right way. They got the win against the Titans.
Yes.
I get you. You hear Titans, you're like, oh, that should be an easy win. Well, the Titans added a lot of ton of role veterans on their teams. Juan, what are your thoughts on Caleb Williams?
He had a shaky start. I mean, he didn't play the greatest, but like, what did he quote? How did he say it? He's like, "We won the game, though, right? We won the game, though. It's all about winning the games." I mean, at that point, when you're trying to throw for 300 plus, 4 or 5 touchdowns or whatever, those are all style points. At the end of the day, all you want is a W. And he got the W, which was a great comeback on their standpoint.
Yeah, sitting her down 17-0.
Yeah, and you came back, and I mean, we're talking NFL. I mean, we see a bunch of stuff like that in college football happen, but in the NFL level, it's the best of the best. So for them to have came back and having all these kind of like, oh, you guys got Caleb Williams, he's not even that good, and da-da-da, but for him to still be able to pull out a win down 17-0 speaks a lot. So, I mean, that's nothing but a confidence booster, I believe, for Caleb Williams, and we'll see what he does this week coming up. What about you? What are your takes on how Caleb Williams basically handled his situation and in the spotlight debut for his first game like that?
Yeah, I would say the stat line as far as being a number 1 pick as a quarterback hasn't won their first game since David Carr in Houston. So it's been a while. That's a lot of pressure. I would say he has a pretty good team. I know we covered it before as far as how he landed on the best position I've ever seen a rookie quarterback land on. I wasn't impressed. Straight up, I wasn't. And it's not being hard on them, but you got weapons, man. And you put up 93 yards. That's pretty bad, bro. Not even triple digits. Come on now.
I mean, yeah, that's bad. It doesn't look good on your resume, but it's still like a learning process, I believe. I'm not trying to say I'm going to give him the straight up pass on it, but I mean, he almost got the.
I'm not once did I say I didn't say he wasn't a good player. Not once did I say I don't think he's going to get better. You asked me what I think about this game. I wasn't impressed. There's no way. No way you could tell me when I was watching that game or sat there and I'm like, oh, Caleb's that dude. Not 1 point. So, yeah, he can grow, and I think he might. But, yeah, the Bears got the W. What you think about the Titans? Titans?
That's crazy. You're up 17-0. I mean, you might as well just keep doing what you were doing to make it work right. And I don't know, like they just had a meltdown. I mean, you pulled up a very interesting little quote of the offensive coordinator. What was that again?
Yeah, so he mentioned we were better off punting on 1st and 10 every time we got the ball, and we would have probably won the game. And by him saying that, he's dissing the quarterback because he allowed 2 pick sixes.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of had a little bit of a higher expectation for Will Evans, and he didn't look that great.
What does he like eating?
Fucking mayo? Mayonnaise.
Man.
And he's got a cologne coming out, too? That's crazy.
What is it?
It's like a mayonnaise cologne.
Oh, hell no.
I swear. That's
For
just
real?
weird. It's hella
that
weird.
shit sounds disgusting. But one game that was disgusting was your goddamn Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, you're talking not 1 touchdown in that game. Well, the Falcons got one.
The Falcons got one.
10-18. How about them Steelers, huh?
We just kicking it, We just like to kick the ball, make sure we got one of the best kickers in the league. And Chris Boswell, the defense looked amazing. I will take that 100% of the days, all season long. If our defense can look like that every single game in, game out, there's no way we should lose games, especially the fact that they robbed my boy TJ for 2 sacks.
Oh, those refs were
But I mean,
something else.
But I mean, hands down to the Falcons, they didn't let the Steelers score, and I mean, we saw a couple cool little glimpses of what Justin Fields could possibly do, and you know, it was okay to see. Can it get better? Absolutely. The run game was not the greatest as I thought it would have been, but you know, they're missing like 2 linemen right now on the Steelers' offensive line. But enough about them. The Falcons were able to hold the Steelers to no TDs, and you were kind of big on the Falcons' defense as of lately. You're talking about like they got something going on the defensive side. I mean, if for you not to allow a touchdown in your first game, that speaks a lot.
Big time.
It's basically, if we didn't get into field goal range, we would be sitting on a goose egg, and they would have won 10-0. It would have been a boring game, but their defense the defense did their job. So the Falcons have a little bit of something going good. Kirk Cousins, though, he did not look.
Yeah, he kind of struggled, but you could also say that the pressure of the Steelers was what kind of caused that. You know, he couldn't really get it together as far as just getting dialed in.
Like an offensive rhythm going.
For sure.
They did heavily rely on trying to get Robinson involved in that game. But, I mean, the box of the Steelers defense was not letting that happen. But I know a lot of fantasy owners were happy to see Kyle Pitts in the end zone.
Oh, big time.
Oh, man, I know everybody was happy to see that. And, you know, going back, I mean, remember, when we talked about him when he was still in college, I was like, bro, he's going to be the next big thing. And I think everybody's got their eyes set on that part. And for him to finally get a touchdown
That's big.
in the first week of the season, that's huge.
Knowing that you'll probably get more targets and all. I would want to get into how T.J. Watt is just dominating all these games, and he clearly won that game by himself.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's no diss to every single other player on the Steelers, but it's just how his greatness as far as wrecking the game. And there was 2 calls that you said were called back.
Yeah.
And one was pretty obvious that it was a strip fumble and he wasn't offsides.
Exactly. He that was one of the perfect jumps I've seen in a while. You know
Big
what I mean?
time.
Like he timed that bad boy perfectly. He was back there before Cousins even got the ball. That's a good jump.
Yeah. What do you think about Fields as far as starting over Russ because of his calf injury? There's saying it's leaning towards him starting against the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best move. Wide rush your guy if you're gonna, you know, I believe that the Steelers are still in that let's figure this out phase, like with as far as the quarterback situation. Because let's say we do put in Russ and his calf is a bother for him and he doesn't have a great game or a bad game. What's the first thing everybody's gonna say? Oh, put Fields in. Fields the answer. You know, and that goes along with a lot of other teams. So for them to get this one right, I think you just make sure your guy is ready to go before you just throw him in. And I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Where do you stand on that point?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that Fields won the game on the road. I think it's kind of gonna be he has to lose the starting job now. Like I get that you brought Russell to start in, but if this guy doesn't lose and he keeps winning, how do you take him out? You know, and you brought them both to compete for the job. It's not like you're like, oh, he's for sure the starter, as in Russ. Even though you guys told him he was going to be the starter, it's a competition.
Absolutely.
And if you don't lose, like, how do you take him out, man? Like, how's that a fair competition?
Exactly. Because like okay, what if we bring in Russ and he loses this game? Then you're just like, oh, you should have stick with Fields. And then let's say we go back to Fields the next game, and then he loses. They're like, oh, well, then we'll go back to Russ. And then at that point, you're just kind of playing this
Teeter-totter.
Exactly. So I think, like you said, it's his job to lose at this point, I think. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing Justin Fields take the field Sunday against the Broncos.
And let's get into the goddamn Broncos. They ended up losing in Seattle against Geno Smith and that defense. Bo Nix, he struggled a bit.
He had a lot on his plate, man. I feel like for a rookie to go in there and throw 42 times, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like that was too much of a weight put on him just to start his career off, and especially on the road against the Seahawks? You know, a little bit of history there.
There's a little rivalry there.
Yeah, it's a quiet one. You know, it's a
Yeah.
little quiet one. So like, I mean, going into that game, let me get Rich's like before game, mid game, and end game.
Before
like
game,
your reactions and stuff like that.
as far as us going into the game,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's your new quarterback. You know what I mean? It's a brand new toy for you.
definitely.
And so, like, I can let's let people hear how you went
mean,
through your progression.
Yeah, as far as going into the Seattle game, I would say that I was like, okay, this is going to be a tough one, regardless of who our quarterback is. We're going into Seattle, first game of the season. You know that crowd's electric. I mean, you're talking one of the best crowds in the league, and you're talking a rookie going into that game. Okay, cool. Not just that game, but you're going against the coach, right? You're talking McDonald from the Baltimore Ravens. That was the defensive coordinator against C.J. Stroud on his first game. People tend to forget, once you see a great season, you just see all the light, the good stuff. They forget of the bad stuff. Well, C.J. Stroud struggled in the beginning of the season. So he had a bad game against Baltimore. Everybody was on C.J. Stroud's ass. Now, let's get back to Bo Nix going to Seattle. Well, he's playing that same head coach. And that Seattle defense ain't no joke. I'm telling you right now, that
They
defense
look nice.
is... Woo! It's not
They're
just
moving.
that pass rush, but that secondary. Man, I'm telling you, those dudes are not... The separation of the receivers, bro, I was like, are you shitting me? Is this NFL receivers? Because there is no separation.
Damn.
And you're talking a rookie quarterback having to throw to one of these receivers with no separation? How do you... Okay, let me zoom out. As a fan,
Pump the brakes, Rich. Pump the brakes. Pump the
but
brakes.
how are you coming at him when there's no separation of the receivers? So, again, Bo Nix struggled. Great defense on the road, not making excuses at all. I'm telling you guys, he looked below average in that game.
But was that kind of like something you were lightly expect? I'm not saying like, yeah, I knew he was gonna suck. No, like, did you kind of see like, okay, he's got a tough task in front of him. Like, let's see what he could do. Kind of situation like that versus like a straight up like, oh, you're garbage, you're done, like how the overreaction standpoint from people.
Definitely, yeah. I'm not gonna overreact. I'm saying I still see the light with him because he did a ton of good things. It wasn't that the stats and we lost the game. We lost by only 6, and if we would have stopped and we would have had the last drive with Bo Nix, I mean, how big is that? You're talking on the road with the bro, you don't understand how bad I wanted to see that shit. I was like, even if we lose, give Bo Nix that chance to get that last drive.
Just to see if he has that.
To see if he has a little bit of it. Because
Okay.
that's what I'm hoping for. And the fans are getting all like, oh, this guy sucks or whatever. I'm like, bro, first of all, let's act like we know we're not going to make the Super Bowl. We're hoping we make the playoffs. So, take your time.
Anything in that spectrum is a win. If you make the playoffs after that key point, I think anything after that, whether you go to the AFC Conference Championship, the Super Bowl, the next round or whatever, that's a win.
Big time.
And that's always just the small stepping stones. And like how you going back to what you said, C.J. Stroud, he had to start against Baltimore with his as this guy is a defensive coordinator, and yet what did they do afterwards? They went on this nice run. They went to the playoffs and did everything. Maybe that can happen again with you guys, but only time will tell. So let's just see what happens with Bo Nix.
And let's give the Seattle Seahawks some credit because,
Absolutely.
again, that defense, to me, I don't know if it was just against a rookie quarterback, but it looks like it's going to be a real deal.
They look like on the P's and Q's.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
Juan, let's get into the upset of the week. The New England Patriots going into Cincinnati and beating your boy, Joe Burrow.
My boy. That's your LSU boy right there.
Yep.
Apparently dyeing your hair doesn't change your team all the way around. They struggled a lot. They didn't look that great. This whole new environment, and I told you, I had mentioned this. I was like, you know what, man? I think Mayo could do this whole Dan Campbell situation and bring a whole new culture to New England. And I mean, that's right now, I think, how you grab the attention of these players that are coming out, these veterans and everything like that. If you have a coach that's so passionate about how they do their things, they might be able to sit there and fight for you too.
Okay.
So for them to go to the game where they're not even supposed to win a game this season, let's be real about that.
Yeah, I didn't think they were that good.
I think they said that the Patriots are complete underdogs all the way throughout this whole season.
Sheesh. They shut that up.
And they shut it up week 1 in Cincinnati. You know what I mean? So, like, that's huge. So, we'll see how further this can go. Jacoby Brissett is, just a solid average quarterback in that game. He did what he had to do. And for them, Stevenson got off.
Stevenson
you have
was
him on
that
your
dude.
fantasy.
Oh, big time. Yeah, he was a steal in my draft. I mean, I got him in the 7th round, and he's looking like a number 2 running back.
Look at that, folks. Diamonds in the rough. But
Big time.
I think New England could probably build from this. I mean, this is only a momentum builder. It's week 1. Let the good take over for these teams, especially if teams that don't have no business winning. So, like, these guys, now they got that full head of steam, and I think they're going to be going okay next week, see what happens.
I'm sorry to ruin the party, but I'm still not that big on New England. I think this is more of the Cincinnati Bengals beating themselves. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to knock the Patriots, but hey, the Bengals will beat y'all if they were to play y'all again. I think it was more of just this whole offseason and of the issues they have going on with Jamar Chase. Just the chemistry overall, it just doesn't seem like it's there yet. And the Cincinnati Bengals start off very slow in every season.
True.
I mean, I think in the last 4 seasons, their record is like 1-8 in the first 2 games.
That's crazy.
That's freaking bad.
That's pretty fucking bad.
So, I mean, if I was you, I would bet against the Bengals, whoever they're playing next week, because they do pretty bad in the first 2 weeks of the season.
They got to warm up a little bit.
For sure. And Juan, let's get into the damn. Oh man, this one is just.
All right, let's go.
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
go. I'm ready.
Yo, Juan, I mean, fuck, what is going on in that red and blue in New York?
Basura. Subtitles: garbage.
Man,
Because-
I'm talking Daniel Jones.
How do you take this fucking guy serious, Rich? How do we go? You know what, man? Like, they say that.
Oh man,
that you can convince people to, you can convince people about a lot of things.
I feel bad for this dude.
But how do you convince everybody that Daniel Jones is okay? I'm not even going to say good. I'm going to say, okay, like, you know what? I wouldn't even want him as a backup.
Yeah, like
That's crazy, though.
there's a. I mean, fuck.
Rich, think about it. Would you rather have Bo
No.
Nix or Daniel Jones right now?
What?
Bo Nix or Daniel Jones?
Come on, bro. What the fuck? Come on,
I'm
bro.
just saying,
You
like-
better say Sanders or fucking Daniel Jones.
I'll take Sanders.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
A dude in college, I will take him over Daniel Jones.
I'll take
right now.
Baby Mahomes out of Nebraska right now over that guy.
Man, it's sad to see because New York really thought they were doing something by signing this guy.
And yet
And
the
they-
guy that they should have signed had a
Yes.
nice little three-piece party in Brazil.
Big time.
But before we get to that game, New York is ruthless, bro. The clip of Daniel Jones walking out and the
Yes.
entire crowd, all these fans
They waited for him.
waited for him after the game, booing the shit out of him. I was like, you got to be kidding. And that guy was yelling, give me a meal. I mean, for pain and suffering, give them the fucking
Hey.
paycheck, bro, because I don't know how New York Giants fans can be New York Giants fans right now.
Yeah, I mean, they got the Knicks. They got the Jets.
That's just
They got
ugly
something.
ass sick. It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks because they really don't have anything going over there.
No.
I mean, they have this good young wide receiver in Neighbors. He's good, but how good could he be if nobody can get him the ball?
That he is the new Saquon Barkley for them.
Unfortunately, that's what it is because
And that sucks for him.
but what is the thing that sucks the most? You need this piece of shit to get the ball to this guy in order for him to do anything.
Yeah,
That's going to be the hardest part. I mean, at least when you had Saquon, all he had to do was turn around and stick his hand out, and he could give it to Saquon. We're talking about you got to have this guy give you 2 seconds to
Yeah.
throw the ball in your direction, and then even then, you already know you're double covered. I mean, at this point, it's just ugly to be a Giant.
It's a shit show, man. And let's not take away from what the Vikings did. And Sam Darnold, he lit it up.
He did.
You know,
he did.
He looked pretty good. And Juan, I think you were pretty big on the Vikings. As far as even they might shock teams and they might make the playoffs, I think you were saying.
I mean, they have the possibility to.
Okay.
It's going to be an interesting situation, especially, I mean, prior to the Jordan Love injury. But that division was pretty stacked. Looking
Oh,
at
big
it
time.
now, look at it now, let's just say minus the injury to Jordan Love, you're talking about 4 teams that all won this weekend, and they're all 1-0. And just think about what those division games would look like. That's going to be the division to watch for sure if these teams continue trending the way they are. So
Yeah.
I mean, but we talk about what ifs and
What ifs, huh? So let's get into these. We got to touch these a little faster because we got some about 5 more games to go. We got the Houston Texans at the Colts. Houston 29-27. Good game, division game.
That's the rivalry we're waiting to see. Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Those are going to be good battles, man. Those are going to be every time. So we got the first glimpse of this one. Let's just see how the next one goes. But both teams outstanding though. Like, you know, they all put in work. Richardson looked pretty good coming back from his injury. So see, it's going to be interesting to see what that division looks like going forward, especially those two teams.
Yeah, one stat line I seen was C.J. Stroud was 9 for 9 or 7 for 7, one of those two, on 3rd and 4th downs this game. And that's huge. I mean, you didn't miss one completion on your 3rd and 4th down. That means they didn't ever punt. I'm wondering if they punted. Because how the hell are you 9 for 9 or 7 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down?
Unless he got stuffed at the line, but I mean, no, they had to punt it at least once, bro.
Fuck, I'm
that's
like,
crazy.
And they only won by 2. So that tells you that the Colts are going to be pretty real this year.
Absolutely, they did beef up that defensive line. They drafted the guy from Sacramento native, went to Jesuit
too.
Yep. So I mean, that's going to be good to see him thriving with alongside an Oregon Duck, my boy Buckner. Yeah. He's a G.
And how about the Raiders versus the Chargers? It was 10-22. That dude, man.
He sneezed on his hand on that one pass. That's why he fucking fell backwards.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad when he tried to toss it back, but he tried to stop his throw.
It was just a weird motion, and yeah. Real quick on this Raiders situation, I mean, do you go back to O'Connell or do you stay with Minshew?
You got to stay with Minshew for another couple games. It's kind of like...
Yeah, and that's the thing that we brought up, or I mentioned earlier. It's not overreaction time. It's just week 1. Let's figure this out, then make the proper adjustments. Go into week 2, see what happens from there.
The Chargers, though, Harbaugh. He got his first W, first game, first W. Defense is looking pretty strong.
Khalil Mack and Bosa look pretty young again. They look like the old guys.
Yeah.
Let me just rephrase that. The young guys that they used to be, because Khalil Mack was in that backfield all day. So was Bosa. One thing that did stood out was that rookie tackle, I believe, John
Alt.
Yeah, he handled his business against
Crosby.
Max Crosby. I'm not taking away from Crosby because we know he's all over the field, but for a rookie to have put
zero pressure supposedly
against him, that speaks a lot. So they got something going there. Raiders probably need to re-game plan that one for the next time they play. Maybe move them to the other side.
Yeah, well, let's get into probably one of the games of the week is the Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs pulled it off 27-20. And the last play of the game, throws the ball towards the end zone. His toe touched the line. He's out, but he went down to that play to possibly go into overtime. Harbaugh was going to go for 2 to end the game there, so that would have been crazy.
Yeah, that would have. Yeah, that's a gutsy move. But let's not forget the play right before that where he had Zay Flowers right there in the back of the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
And if you were an MVP quarterback, those are throws we know you should be making 100 out of 100% of the time. And for him to have missed him that far back, Rich, that was it happens. You know, whatever it may be, but it happens.
Apparently, he wasn't even going to Zay Flowers, so that kind of makes it even worse because it was Bateman coming across, and Flowers the one that tried to turn around, but apparently it wasn't him that the ball was going to. So, regardless,
that ball really read it wrong.
Yeah, that ball was right in the middle of both of those guys. It could have easily been picked. Dude was wide open. You got to make that throw, like Juan is saying. But the Ravens, with Derrick Henry, they didn't look too bad, man. I mean, Lamar Jackson has lost a lot of weight. He's running a lot. They said he's questionable for this week based on all the hits he took already. Chiefs, looking like the old Chiefs. Looking like they're probably going to three-peat, honestly. And it's early. Not to overreact. I'm just saying, they just won the Super Bowl, and they look like they're better than they were in that Super Bowl game.
So I got to ask you a question, Rich. How do you feel about the officiating in that game?
Oh, man, that was a pretty goddamn bad officiating there. And you're starting to see it more and more.
It's a little too much
obvious.
of a reoccurring coincidence.
Yes.
All the time, these games, how they've gotten these wins, these kind of weird little sketchy kind of like.
I mean, you can go back to the Super Bowl. I mean, there was
even before the Super Bowl. What about the game when they should have lost to the Jets last year? Remember how many random holdings, random pass interferences? It's starting to be a little bit too much of a, hey, we want these guys to rule the NFL right now. It's like we want this new Patriots dynasty type of situation.
Which we understand how the business side goes. But it's more of, how in your face it is now because of social media breaking down all these plays and holdings and supposedly off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and all these weird formations and all this other. Yeah, like it doesn't make sense. And
I mean,
the
Harbaugh
evidence
was
is
pissed.
there. The evidence is there. So there's no way you can sit here and go around.
Yeah, it's not like we're conspiracy theorists.
No.
I mean, come on now. You have to not really
We could
see
put up-
these clips, and when it's right in your goddamn face, and you're gonna tell me you don't believe that video? Like, oh, it's
if
just
we
made
could
up.
we could put up 2 different clips of the same kind of penalty, and we can find that one is a false start, this one is the false start, but this one didn't get called. And I almost guarantee you, almost every time, it's going to be a Chiefs clip. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. So, I mean, like, the evidence is there.
Yeah.
It looks like they're getting a lot of help, quote-unquote help, from the officiating. So, I mean...
And we're not saying this team isn't good. Like, it's
No,
not like
the
we're saying
Chiefs are good.
We're not saying they need the officiating. We're
It's just that
saying
they're having the help there.
yeah. We're saying
It's like having the resources there, and you're just using your resources.
we're saying Lakers versus Kings.
No, whoa. No.
Rigged ass shit is what we're saying.
That's exactly what we're saying.
They have a little bit of help. We're not saying they're not a good team,
But they are having some help. It's nice having a 12th player on the field.
money talks, huh?
Exactly, absolutely. You know, we have the power couple in Travis and
Swift.
yeah, we'll just try not to say her name.
Yeah. Well, money talks, huh? So Saquon Barkley, he got paid, and he
Might
went
talk
to
for him.
the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a debut, like you said, in Brazil. 3 touchdowns, man.
He looked good. He looked hella good that game, bro. I mean, it's not just taken away from the whole team, but Saquon looked good and he fit that offense. And it almost seems like that is the one piece that they were missing to put that offense over the top. And we've been really high on the Eagles for the last couple of years. And we haven't gotten that one thing that we both want to see out of them. But
Yeah.
for sure, they look really good going into that game against Green Bay.
I would say I've been a huge Barkley fan, and I'm just glad that he got this chance. And to see just the first game already. I mean, I've been speaking on Barkley since Penn State, and I was saying this is going to be the next great running back to ever touch the field, bro. I'm so big on Barkley in Penn State, and even with the Giants, he just never had that chance.
Exactly.
And this year, I hope he stays healthy and all because that's what's been his issue. But if he does, he's going to break some goddamn records. I'm talking NFL records.
Oh, man.
I'm talking Saquon Barkley has a chance to be the MVP of the league, first running back MVP over all the quarterbacks. This was the last time you heard of an MVP running back.
Henry, wasn't it?
Did he end up winning MVP?
I think he got it 1 year.
Okay. So,
but I mean, still, we're talking
Right
about
there.
prime Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Well, that was a few years back now.
you remember that
Yeah,
prime
but-
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, everybody remembers that guy.
Oh, man.
That guy was a
Legendary.
walking bulldozer. Just move, touchdown. I'll throw one. Fuck it.
Big time. And let's get into the Packers, though, because they put up a fight, and it sucks, and it hurts to see Jordan Love go down on the last drive.
Yeah. Going into that last couple plays, man, I was like, oh shit, he's going to pull this one off. It's going to be a good one. And then, unfortunately, due to that, injuries are part of the game. It sucked the way he went down. I know there's some people out there that want to be like, oh, that was a dirty play. It wasn't, because if he lets him go and Jordan Love slips his leg out and he takes off for 15 yards, what are we saying then? Why did you let him go?
Yep.
But, you have to complete the play. What's the rule? Play until you hear the whistle.
I don't think it's dirty.
And personally, me neither, but I've heard people be like, oh, the Eagles are dirty for that play. That was a dirty play. They shouldn't have done that. He's already down. It's like, he wasn't down. The whistle never blew. If he pulled out of there and he took off, what would have happened? They would have been even closer. The game would have changed. But, unfortunately, again, injuries are part of the game. It sucks. Hopefully a speedy recovery. There's talks that he might even come back.
Okay, so you did hear that. I was just about to bring that up. And
I think they said
I kind of want to get into that because, okay, they were saying 3 to 6 weeks. Now they don't want to put him on the IR because then he would be forced to miss 4 games. Rumor is he could possibly be playing this Sunday if he's cleared. Now, if he is cleared,
Don't play him.
how in the do you play
Don't
this
play him,
guy,
bro.
man?
You don't play him. You're talking about money. You just gave my guy a fat contract. And you're going to want to throw him back in there just to try to win a game right now?
Like, are they really panicking to not make the playoffs? Is what that's telling
They
me.
have the talent to do. They have the talent. It's there.
Yeah.
So why would you rush your guy to come back that fast?
That shit pisses me off because if it could end it could mess up his career, not just their team and their franchise and their cap space. He could come back, get that same goddamn injury, but even worse, and that could be possibly career ending. You know, knock on wood. I don't want that, but goddamn, why force that?
And that's something that right now I feel like GMs and shit and coaches are like oh man, we gotta keep the hand on that panic button because guys get fired left and right now in the NFL and stuff like that. Guys get cut, get released, fired, whatnot. But right now, it's barely the beginning of the season. We got long ways to go, bro.
Big time.
So just play your cards, figure it out, get something going, and go from there and let him come back when he's ready. Because, I mean, if he's out for, let's say, 5 weeks, we're going into week 6. We still got a little bit more than half the season to go. You can still do something. If you get lucky, you probably win 2 out of those 3 games.
They can still squeeze a couple games out of there somehow.
So, I mean, I wouldn't hit that panic button to bring him back so fast right now, especially that's your franchise right there.
Big time.
So, I mean, that's what I feel about that one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. You shouldn't bring him back. But one guy that they didn't bring back was the Niners. They didn't bring back Christian McCaffrey. And they ended up winning against the Jets on Monday night. Great game. They look like they're back to the old Niners of last year and just dominated in a way.
Absolutely, they did. Aaron Rodgers was having a little PTSD flashbacks. Man, he couldn't do anything against that team. Same results right now as it's been for him for the last couple seasons.
I think they said he was in playoff mode since he can never beat the Niners in the playoffs.
I mean, that's what it looked like.
Shit,
I mean,
damn, that was tough.
Yeah, and then I don't know. The Niners still look the same. Let's talk about the big obvious. Brandon Ayuk, his first game. I mean, obviously it's all their first game, but no practice, no training camp, no nothing. Goes out there, drops a big touchdown, a possible touchdown catch.
Oh, that was a touchdown, big time.
Absolutely,
what a dime from Purdy. Messed up his highlight. You get your contract, but this is what you just mentioned as far as not being in training camp, and that shows any other fan how big training camp and preseasons are. They don't want them, and they say it's a waste of time. Just get started with the season. Hell no, man. It
obviously showed.
Big time.
I mean, you can practice in your backyard or with a couple guys at the field or whatever, but when it's practice. It's practice time versus game time. So they're 2 different speeds. So I mean, and it showed. He still ended up, I think, maybe a few catches here and there, nothing major, but the big name of this game, Jordan Mason,
big time.
So I mean, what do you believe, Rich? Did he know he was starting that day, or did he know he was starting last Friday?
Crazy part was I was on the phone with our cousin Joe, and he's like, "Hey, you watching this game?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "What you think about Mason? That's crazy how he's going off." And he's like, "And he just found out that he was gonna be starting." I was like, I don't know about that one, man. I think they known the whole time." And I was like, they were acting like he was finna start McCaffrey, but the whole time Mason's been taking first reps. So it's like,
what do you really want to believe?
And then he says he knew he was starting on Friday. Apparently he's not supposed to know that because that means that McCaffrey was gonna play.
Yep.
Wasn't gonna play.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was kind of weird, and I know that might have messed up some fantasy owners out there.
Big time.
Because imagine you're like, oh man, I only need 10 more points, and I got McCaffrey, my last player. Scratch. What?
0 took that L.
I mean, but then again, let's just not say it is McCaffrey, but how do you feel about these little weird little hiccups? Okay, you knew this guy was starting on Friday. Why didn't you put it out there? Do you feel like? I mean, it sounds more like a strategical thing.
Big time.
Leaving your opponent thinking you have somebody else starting for you when you're running with somebody else. I mean, I see that, but for us fans to know. Let's say you're going to Denver to go see Bo Nix, right? And you're like, yeah. And then you get there and they're like, Bo Nix isn't starting. And you're like, I came to see this dude. Now I can't see him. At least if you were to tell me, I could have sold my tickets and I could have planned for something else.
Big time. And that's one perspective. And another perspective is the gambling aspect because it's a business. And we were talking about it earlier. The NFL is a business.
Absolutely.
And they're pushing gambling big time. I mean, they're hand in hand right now. I mean, gambling and NFL are they're making deals, man. And when you're making deals and not telling us that this guy's not going to play, 2 hours before the game, but supposedly you knew this whole week. Come on now, man.
I mean, really.
Come on.
That goes from, hey, I'm going to take the fucking Niners +5 to like, oh, shit. He's not playing? No,
Yeah.
I'm not taking that one.
Luckily,
You know,
it didn't affect this game.
absolutely, but I
You
mean,
know.
we're talking about other possible big significant games. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if you dropping money and let's say the Chiefs and the, I don't know, let's say it's the Chiefs and the Texans, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take the Chiefs, but then you find out like 20 minutes before, like, oh yeah, Travis Kelce's not playing. That's gonna fucking wig you out the whole time, bro.
As long as the refs are there, they're
I
good.
mean, you got a chance.
Hey, come on.
Yeah. Maybe should have used a different team.
For sure. Juan, I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, there was one more game. The Dolphins.
That was a weird
against
situation. The pre-game part was a weird situation.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, what do you take on that part
With the,
with the whole Tyreek Hill incident?
I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to really get into it. You can look at it two ways. I get that they were very aggressive. The cops, they shouldn't have been. But, you know, I don't want to get too into it. But if he would have just kept his window down, that's all you had to do. I do say the cops got a little too aggressive, but what was the point of rolling the window up?
True.
Tinted window and all. So, I mean, that's just something quick. What were you thinking?
I mean, yes and no. Maybe they had, what's it called, money line.
Fantasy?
Yeah, they might have had him in fantasy. Maybe one of those cops had him on the fantasy. He was like, fuck that, you ain't going to beat me today.
Yeah, that's just another little way to look
No.
at it. But that's a little...
A little bit on the other side. But as far as the
Yeah.
Dolphins coming out, man, they came out pretty looking like the same little Dolphins that we know how they've been playing as of lately, minus playoff time. But, explosive offense, moving the ball around, doing what they got to do. They look pretty solid overall.
And the Bills. Oh, no,
What a
that was
comeback.
the Bills. Yeah.
The Bills had a nice little comeback. That play when Josh Allen jumped over
Jordan?
homeboy. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
sick.
He
That
did
was
hit that
crazy.
Jordan on him, though, one time. He lost a couple weapons. I mean, a big weapon is Stephon Diggs, and he spread the ball out this time. He didn't
still
have
looked-
just eye on one guy. He
Yeah.
split it up. Each guy had like 4 or 5 receptions.
Yeah. So I mean they look good for, I guess, what you can kind of were expecting to come into with them in the season. I mean,
They
personally,
almost lost.
Personally, I was like, bro, the Bills they're no longer, a thing. I think they're done. But like, I mean, obviously they came out, punched what's it called in the mouth, and took back the win. They almost lost that one.
Yeah,
So I
big
mean,
time.
it was good to see them pull off a win.
For sure, Juan. Well, that's it for this week. We'll get right back at it next week. What do we always say on this show, Juan?
If you're a king,
You belong at the table. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and let your boys know about the podcast, man. Ladies, too.
yeah, everybody's welcome. Leave us, your opinions on how you feel about some of these games and stuff. We're more than happy to reach out to you guys. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
Gone.